I'm Ryan Bragg. Live here in the Dallas area with my family, my wife and two kids, and love junior achievement and have been supporting it for a while. And so I'm happy to be here with you today, talking about my military service. My story is I did not come from a military family, really nobody at all. But as I kind of got into high school and started thinking about my future and some of the things that I wanted to learn and do, which included going to college, the military seemed like a great option for me. And so I initially enlisted as a senior in high school. I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and I ended up doing a couple of years in the Marine Corps. Decided I wanted to go to college, and oddly enough, the Army offered me a full scholarship. And so it's not typical to change services. It does happen, but I ended up changing services because of that. So ended up getting a fully paid college experience, got my degree with no debt. They even paid me while I was in college, which was pretty amazing. So that was fantastic. Then after college, I commissioned as an officer, and I became a medical officer in the military. So I was a medical planner, more specifically. And I did the vast majority of my time, basically from then on, other than a couple of deployments in Army Reserve or National Guard units in 3 states across the United States. The 2 exceptions to that are I did have 2 deployments. The first one was stateside. This is in 2005 for Hurricane Rita. It's been a long time ago now, but it was a very destructive hurricane, Hurricane Katrina, and then Rita hit back to back along the Louisiana and Texas coasts. And tons of people were displaced from their homes, flooded. Whole city of New Orleans was flooded. So we deployed down there, and I ran the medical task force for that, which was a hugely rewarding experience. I mean, we were doing stuff like going to nursing homes that were flooding, like walking through floodwaters, the water's rising all around us, and we're carrying old people out and putting them on helicopters and putting them on boats and putting them on buses in some cases where the roads were still good, and getting them, out of the area, out of danger. So a lot of lives saved, which was just fantastic. Very cool experience. And then about 4 years later, I got called up again, this time to go to Iraq as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and spent 13 months over there being a medical planner, essentially planning all the medical operations across the whole country of Iraq. After that, I continued for about 10 more years. I retired in 2020. So I am officially out and done now, 22 total years of experience in the military. And when I think back on it today, I learned so much. I learned things that I still use today. I mean, stuff that's applicable in your regular life, your civilian life, my job today, my personal life, things like strategic thinking, things like leadership skills, things like planning. I got to travel a ton. I got to see a lot of cool places, a number of foreign countries, as well as all over the United States. So nothing like some free travel, which was great. Got to do a lot of really cool things too. One thing that always comes to mind is two of my favorite memories. We're jumping out of airplanes, so basically skydiving, which was awesome. And then riding in helicopters. If you've never ridden in a helicopter, it's a totally different experience. It's like a roller coaster on steroids when they're moving around and swinging through the air and stuff like that. So really cool. Other stuff like operating military equipment, vehicles, weapons, things like that. Things that most people never get the chance to do in their whole life. And I was able to do that. And even more notably, was able to do a lot of that in the reserves too. So I wasn't even having to do it full time. And I got all those experiences as well. When I think about kind of how it's impacted my life, a lot of those skills, again, I'm still employing them today. I use some of that stuff every single day at work: planning, strategic thinking, leadership. But then also just as an individual, I feel like the military helped make me a better person. I was no different than any of you coming out of high school, just trying to figure out what do I want to do with my life, where am I going? I wasn't a bad kid or anything like that, but I was looking for some direction. And the military provided that for me. It gave me a lot of personal accountability, personal responsibility. It really made me not so much shape up as just sharpen my focus in terms of like being very purposeful about what I was going to do, why I was going to do it. And it also, for me, it fulfilled a desire to give back and to serve others. It's something that's always been very important to me, remains so today. And so the ability to be able to do things like evacuating those folks in the nursing home, as I mentioned, during Hurricane Katrina and Rita. Stuff like that was just, it was very fulfilling personally, on top of just being a really cool experience. So, also as I think about my time in the military, think, like anything else, there were successes, there were some failures, there were some challenges. Some of my successes, which I'm proud of, I was able to go from being an enlisted man to being an officer. It's a pretty big jump, and it's a very different set of skills to be successful at one versus the other. Also had most of my college paid, all of my college and most of my grad school paid for. So I mentioned the college thing earlier. Later, the military actually paid for half of my grad school too, which is awesome. So out of 6 years of kind of post high school schooling, I only paid for one. So you hear a lot about people have to take out big loans and have trouble paying them back, and are seeking repayment. Lots of stuff in the news about that these days. Thankfully for me, I never had to worry about that. I had 1 year out of 6 that I had to pay for, and I was able to manage that and get those loans paid off. And I'm in a much better situation financially because of that, because I wasn't saddled with huge loans. And I have the military to thank for that. Not only did they pay for the schools, but they paid for things like books, and I got paid while I was doing it. So I was literally going to school, going to class like anybody else, and getting a paycheck for that. That's a pretty good deal. On the flip side, some of the challenges, it was very physically challenging, as you can imagine, and that differs a lot by the service you join and the particular job you have within that service. But they're all going to be a little physically demanding, mentally tough training. So, they're sharpening your body, but they're also sharpening your mind too. The deployment in particular was a huge challenge. I didn't have kids at the time, thankfully, but I was married. And so I had to literally, quit my job. And I was gone for almost 15 months away from my wife. I only saw her once during that time. That was a huge challenge, not an easy time for her or me. And of course, being over there in a combat zone, I was in pretty much constant danger for a year. And so, along with the successes and all the good things, it definitely had some challenges during my time too. If I had to kind of wrap all that up into a few, call it words of wisdom, for lack of a better term. Some of the most important things the military taught me is, number one, the mind is the strongest muscle in the body. And just like you can exercise and get yourself physically stronger, you can do that with your mind too. You don't have to join the military to do that, but the military is an excellent vehicle for helping sharpen your mind and making your brain a much stronger muscle than it is today. Mental toughness and resiliency is a crucial skill for all of us in life. And the military helped me tremendously with that. And then another big one is, thoughtful, proactive planning early on saves a lot of time, money, effort, pain later on. So, you may have heard the term measure twice, cut once, for construction and woodworking projects and things like that. I would change that up a little bit and say, think twice, act once. And the military was awesome about teaching me how to do that. They have a lot of formal planning frameworks that they teach you on how to think through issues, how to come up with different options and courses of action, and then how to ultimately choose the best one. So two of the best things I got out of the military there, certainly not the only ones. But 22 years, couldn't be happier with my service. No regrets, and happy to be here today to share it with all of you.